In the darkest night, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial, we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Surviving together, victorious. And never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey guys, how's everyone doing today? Kim's working outside. Wow. I hope you're bundled up. I can't even imagine what kind of temperatures you got there because it is cold in Michigan today. I'll tell you what. First blizzard of the year is hitting you right now. Wow. That's in Saskatchewan. Deaudrey, so glad you're here. Can't stay from Scotland, staying for the weekend. Ooh, oh my goodness. Car broke down. Oh, you definitely deal with that. Certainly, certainly. Hi, Donna. So good to see you. Getting things done around the house and lurking? Feel free. Feel free. Absolutely. Crystal M, so glad you're here. I am so happy things are going well with work for you. That is fabulous. And who do we else? We have Body Illusion. Hey, Body, guess what I did? I don't know if you saw, but I have like 6 of my lives scheduled, like the next 6. I'm very proud of myself. Granted, the names will change, but I'm pretty sure I got all the dates and the times right. But you keep me honest, okay? So you double check them all and let me know if I messed any of them up. But I think I got them all right now. So, but let me know. We got some snow the other, what was it, like Thursday morning? I woke up and there was some snow, but then it rained and it's all gone now. So that was it. Hi, Arlene. How are you? Good. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Everyone, Arlene is somebody who I met in Tommy Stiggs's channel. And now she's been in some other ones. So you're proud of me? Thanks. Sorry, I just lost a cat, so I'm having to readjust because, man, those suckers are warm, aren't they? Yeah. So Tig was joining us, but I think he wanted it a little quieter than I'm currently going to be. I'm fired up today, guys. I'm really fired up. First, though, I want to make a general announcement, and I'll try to make it at the end as long as I remember as well. I am looking for somebody to speak to. It's to anybody who's got either fibromyalgia or lupus. I'm looking to get some more information. So if anybody is willing to talk to me and communicate, through email, phone, whatever, email me, please, survivingtogethersass@gmail.com, and I'd really greatly appreciate it. Let's see. So Crystal found out that her bully is not going to be there until at least the 6th of December or something like that, which is absolutely fabulous. I can't imagine having to walk in every day just, wondering, are you going to bump into this person who you is the last person on the face of the earth, right, that you really want to bump into. Whew. So that's just got to be a nice weight off your shoulders. Definitely, especially with the holidays coming up. What else do I want to announce? We're over 250, guys. We're over 250 subs. I think we're almost I think we're like 255 subs. So 500, here we come, guys. I am so excited. We're at 2,200 watch hours. That counter starts over in February, and I still have to get to 4 again, but that's okay because I know that I can do that. Know 100% that we'll be able to do this next year. So really geeked about that. Let's see. And in that effort to, excuse me, push things out more, definitely going to be trying to do some more shorts. I realized that there's an AI feature, and I hadn't used it yet, but Tommy Stiggs has used it, and so I'm gonna give that a whirl as well. That just automatically makes the shorts for you out of some of these lives that we do, because I know it's good information. And then certainly I've got the actual 15-minute videos that I need to post. And of course, today, as I was going along doing things, I'm jotting notes about 15 other shows that I want to do. So I've got material for a gazillion years. Remind people to like and subscribe and comment. Yes, I still got to get my beginning. Did I even tell you you're at Surviving Together? I'm like, I think that's going to become my absolute number one thing. You're just going to have to guess where you are and, just look. Because I 100% every time forget to say, I'm like, hi, you're on Surviving Together. What do we do here? Oh, it's a safe space for sexual assault survivors and other trauma survivors to get together, connect, heal, maybe learn some things. And anybody who just wants to learn some things about trauma and support us, everybody is welcome. But today, guys, we are going to be doing something that everybody can get behind, and that is talking about bad judges. Okay. Bad comments by judges. Let's put it that way. They're not all bad, ignorant, uneducated, misogynistic. Yes. Necessarily bad themselves? No. So I will clarify that. It is going to make you angry. So if you're doing something, if you're cleaning, if you're doing anything, just put that effort into it, put that power into it. But golly, I have been raging about these for a week, ever since I came across that one story, and I was like, ooh, I want to look this up, because there's tons. I mean, literally tons, right? Anytime anybody says something, somebody's local paper is going to put something out. But it takes a while to try and actually find that kind of stuff, and you're sifting through the years. So I did use an AI to help me. Unfortunately, because the AI is not connected to the internet, it can't actually pull sites for me. So I'm relying on its information, and then I verify the information, or at least I try to. A lot of information I have means that I may say some things, and if I don't know any more information, it's because I couldn't verify anything else. I'm trying to get over just the ones that I was able to verify, which in and of itself is going to give us plenty to talk about, believe me. Hey, Crystal Phoenix, how you doing? I'm glad you're here. John Marie. She is definitely one of our sicker people, guys. Jen is getting over a cold. And I'm going to tell you that Janet, carry on. Yeah, she thinks she's got the plague. I mean, like, that's how bad she feels. It's she's feeling pretty awful. So she will not be joining us. If she gets out of bed today, I'd be surprised. Arlene, not necessarily. By bad judges, some of them, their comments don't end up letting the defendants out on the streets. Some of them did end up in lighter sentences. Some of them did end up acquitting. But others where the judges themselves didn't have anything to do with actually making the decision. The defendants were still convicted and still received, an okay sentence. But when you have judges, when you have court officials perpetuating rape culture, right, it is just going to inhibit victims from coming forward, right? And I didn't even get into the men's comments, guys. I'll be honest. The comments about men, about male victims, okay? It was enough that I had with this. And it's harder to find those just because I think some judges don't want like what they've said out there. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sending all of that to Jen. Now you've got bronchitis and sinusitis. Okay, great, Jen. You just got to go above and beyond, don't you? It's wonderful. Just wonderful. Crystal Phoenix, I saw your video that went out yesterday. I have not had a chance to watch it. Hopefully that is what you were talking about. If there was something else to support you about, let me know, because that was the only notification that I got. So you're an overachiever, Jen. Yes, you are. Oh, okay. So how do we want to start this? Well, let's start just by talking about rape culture just a little bit. What is rape culture? I mean, what am I talking about when we talk about rape culture? So rape culture has to do with people's beliefs, their values, the practices that are in place that contribute to a culture where sexual assault is overlooked, minimized, dismissed. So it's all of that stuff that goes into not believing a victim or victim blaming. So let's talk about, what are we talking about? Some of the things that we're talking about here. Victim blaming being one. You shouldn't have been in that place. You shouldn't have been wearing that thing. You shouldn't have been flirting with him. You shouldn't have been A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Go down the road. Just list it all. Minimizing the attack. It's not that serious. And we're going to come across some of that today. Normalizing sexual violence and sexual assault. So through media, through jokes, through representation in film, anything where it makes it seem like, yeah, this is just par for the course. This is what a man gets, or this is the woman's lot in life, without anything more, right? Arlene, which do you mean? You say, you know why? You know why what? because I disagree with the end part of your sentence, and I want to make sure as to what we were meaning. Yeah. Hey, hold on, Jen. Hold on. Let's get the full context, okay? Let's get the full context of what was trying to be said. You think that some women don't take it seriously in cry rape? There definitely is some of that. I think all of us survivors have got to be honest, there is some of that. However, it is a very, very small portion. The false reports, the people who, are just saying it, there usually isn't any of that. False reports, I think, make up for less than 1%. And obviously it's really hard to get statistics because it's, who do you believe in which situation. But as far as we're able to tell in terms of being able to look at the numbers, it is very rare that that women, or that anybody, that survivors are, that anybody would make a false report. I think it is the numbers of people who don't report are still well into our 70s and 80s, I think. In terms of people who don't report, it's really high, very high, and those are U.S. numbers. They vary throughout the world, depending on where you are. Crystal, yeah, that is one of the more common situations, I think, to where you would see somebody falsely claiming rape, and it's not them, right? They're not the ones. It's where their parents are making them. And thankfully, they've got Romeo and Juliet laws in place in most states that I know of. And what that means is, if you're within 2 or 3 or even 5 years, depending on what the state is, age-wise, then it won't be considered a sexual assault. Usually it's like 2 or 3, because they're looking at let's say your age of consent is 16, and they're looking at the 15-year-old and the 17-year-old, or the 15-year-old and the 18-year-old. That can be a sophomore and a senior in high school. And so getting those laws in place, that was really, really, really key. I think Michigan only got it in, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe about 10 years ago, ours was put in place. So they're fairly new in being able to do that. Hey, Tommy, how you doing? Thindu, good to see you. Good to see you. Crystal Phoenix says Missouri doesn't have those laws. It doesn't surprise me that not everybody has them. Bill C., good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, when I was researching this, and I was coming across some things, and I did not realize how many countries still have not outlawed marital rape. Now, within their sexual assault statutes, it may be covered, right? But it's not specifically stated. If you're married, it can still be rape, right? So there are a lot of countries where it's like, well, they just kind of turn a blind eye. Yeah. Tell me, how are you? Thindu, Tommy, thanks for pulling everybody over. Guys, Thindu was just doing a live, and I was just in his, and I was busting him a little bit, and I'm like, I gotta go. I'm going live. So you guys is bringing everybody over here. Thanks so much. Like and check if you're still surprised. Well, if you're surprised, like too, whatever. Yes, like, comment, and subscribe, everyone. Appreciate it, appreciate it, appreciate it. Um, the other couple things, just briefly to talk about with rape culture, that these attitudes perpetuate is skepticism of victim stories when they do come forward, and having a lack of empathy for people in these types of situations. And we've spoken um, we've spoken before. Thanks, Thindu. Slimini Cricket Entertainment, how are you? Any relation to Manas in Thindu? Maybe I'm just going to have you up here to talk, because apparently I'm not being able to do it right now. Okay. Slimini Cricket, are you any relation to Mayonnaise Entertainment? We've got one of those too. So throwing that all out there. It really, really becomes critical that we believe people and we take them that we take them at face value, especially, and we've talked a lot about this here before, especially when it comes to kids, right? Because this rape culture, it dwindles, it flows down right to the kids. Because if we're not going to believe our adults, are we going to believe our kids? It's a tough one, right? So take everybody at their word, guys. Take everybody at their word. Investigate. We're always taught trust, but verify, right? You can still treat somebody with care and with empathy, even if you're not, 100% believing them. Let the investigation play out. Let things go. With that, I will say this. There needs to be, on the other side of that, a fair shake for the accused to be able to put forth their thing. Because what we did see, like if you guys remember back into the 80s with the McMartin trial, with the daycare situation, and they were eventually acquitted. Now, whether you believe it or not, I mean, these people were put through the ringer. I mean, they never were able to live their lives the same again, and that can happen for people who are acquitted. And it's really unfortunate. I do feel for them on that side. And I think as survivors, we have to have empathy on the other side as well. No, we don't have to. I said that we should, right? I mean, that's the Jen. I love you, Jen, but you're gonna be hacking along. We'll see. If I really need it, I'll let you know. One of the biggest things with rape culture and the perpetuating stereotypes and victim blaming is that people don't want to come forward. It's a very, very big chilling effect. And when you have, look at the 50s and the 60s, when you have all of this working together, it's really hard to be able to change. We have just begun. I think the last 50 years is when the advocacy against the rape culture really has come out. Started a little bit in the late 60s, the women's movement, 60s, early 70s. Then it really started to push forward. Now had their first public service campaign in 1975, Rape is Rape. And it moved forward from that with new advocacy groups forming, new laws forming. In the 70s, I think 1973, the first state outlawed marital rape. and 1979, the last one did. So at least that kind of took off, and very quickly we kind of covered that. So as far as I know, that is outlawed within all of the states. Please, number one, you may get very mad at some of these judges. Take care of yourself. Step out. If you're getting too upset, just go breathe, okay? Just go breathe. Some of these people did get their due justice. They got taken off the bench, which is what's fair is fair. Yeah, Crystal, you name it. I'll do an open panel with you anytime. Just let me know. Email me. Yeah, you've got my email. Mac. Misha. Somebody see Misha? Did she sneak in and I didn't see her? Misha, if you are here, welcome, and I hope you're feeling well. So, lest any of you think that all of this is over and judges don't do any of this today, or nobody, no, she's not here. Okay, good. I wanted to make sure I didn't realize. Oh, okay, never mind. We have a gentleman. I need to pull this up real quick because I want to make sure that I get. This is from this year, guys. And this is a prosecutor in England, or a justice minister. I'm sorry. Justice Minister John Hogan, who stated, let me get his full thing here. We've spoken before about how talk therapy isn't necessarily the best for everybody, because in retelling your story, it can be re-traumatizing. Some people can tell it from a very cold standpoint and just kind of get all the facts out. But for a lot of us, going back to that time and dissecting it, looking at things, and especially digging into our emotions, it's like the trauma's happening all over again. This gentleman stated that it's a very serious issue, meaning sexual assault, and the lawyers in this province are not re-traumatizing sexual assault victims, whether it's a Crown or a legal aid or a private lawyer in this province. It's not the way it works. It's actually impossible for it to happen. So it's not impossible. I'm going to tell you, dude. I know the point he was trying to get at. He was trying to say, and he later apologized, of course, because the uproar was instantaneous. He was trying to get the point across that, we're sensitive to the needs of the survivors, and that we're taking care of them with kid gloves. We're not being mean to them. We're taking them by the hand and walking them down this lane to be able to prosecute. That's all well and good, right? But it doesn't mean that you're not going to re-traumatize them. And a lot of survivors, they know this going into a trial, but to them, it's worth it. But don't be so ignorant to think that you're never going to re-traumatize somebody and that it's impossible to do, because it sure as heck is possible. That was earlier this year. Cheech, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're just getting started. Just getting started on going over some bad comments by judges. So let's see. What do we got? What are some of my favorites? I do have to say, and this is totally out of the realm of just going down things like I was, but I have to let you know about this one, and I wanted to see where it was. I think this was in England, but I'm not 100% sure. That one was okay. So yes, these ones are all England. So sorry to Flicks, Flick Fox, if you're listening, but we're gonna pick on England for just a moment. So in 1988, a Judge Hutton told a guilty rapist, "I hope you'll be able to keep your well-paid job, and the couple of weeks you spend in prison will be treated by employers as part of your holidays." Isn't that nice? Golly, he was just so kind, of course. I am going to say that my connection just went. Hang on, guys. There we go. I hadn't touched it in a while. You guys should know, for like, I think the first 20 or so lives that I did, I would just touch my connection over here. My screen would go blank. So I haven't done it. I haven't done it in quite some time. So that's, and so for everybody here, you know, some people are survivors, some people aren't. Some people have never even known anybody who has been with some of this trauma. Some of us have had it and have never gone through the court system. Some of us have. So we all have a little bit of different experiences around this, and you know how much we've gone through. Thanks, Bill. I really appreciate it. All of these survivors are extremely strong, Bill. That you are 100% correct. Because what do I always say to you guys at the end of every live? And you're strong because you are a survivor. You make it. You make it. You can heal. I 100% believe that. Let's see. I have to get back to where I was. This. So the judge had the choice of giving the rapist a harsher sentence or the lighter sentence of 3 years. He gave him 3 years. And in commenting as to why, he said, "You showed concern and consideration by wearing a contraceptive." So yes, he got the lighter of the sentences because he wore a condom. Wasn't that considerate? So nice. So nice. I know, Jen, right? That was actually the one that I called you about this morning when I said, hey, because I had just read that and I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. And this was literally what I was doing at my screen because I was just about to go through it. Yeah. It was very nice. This one, just I love some people. I'm using 2 different screens, guys, and I lose my cursor when I do that sometimes. let's go to the US. And let's 2008. Not too terribly long ago, guys. Not too terribly long ago. And I read this one to my son because he happened to walk in as I was reading it. And okay, yeah, no, we don't hate men. We don't hate men. But yes, not all of them on my list, though, are male. I will say that. I actually was surprised at some of the females in their comments. Exactly. Yeah, that was a male judge. This one is a male judge as well. In justifying the light sentence he gave to a man who raped his girlfriend, he had this to say. This is Judge Derek Johnson in California. And I'm going to tell you, before he became a judge, he worked for the Orange County District Attorney's Office. He was a prosecutor, all in the sex crimes unit. Then he became a judge. Derek Johnson. Almost. It's Derek Johnson, though. We do have a few Richards, though, so definitely some dicks out there. Judge Johnson says, I'm not a gynecologist, but I can tell you something. If somebody doesn't want to have sexual intercourse, the body shuts down. The body will not permit that to happen unless a lot of damage is inflicted. And we heard nothing about this in that case. Nothing about that in this case. That tells me that the victim in this case, although she wasn't necessarily willing, she didn't put up a fight. And to treat this case like rape cases that we all hear about is an insult to victims of rape. I think it's an insult. I think it trivializes rape. I'm just going to let that sink in for a minute. Yeah, that was the judge. And he later stated that he had seen much, much worse in terms of the damages to internal and external areas of the victim. And therefore, I think that's what he was basing it on. Still not 100% sure, but yeah. But lest you think that that's an isolated thought, wasn't I surprised to find a former House Representative, Todd Akin, in 2012 from Missouri, stated that in regards to a pregnancy resulting from rape, he said, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to shut that whole thing down. I'm not really sure who did his sex education, but he needs to talk to some more doctors, because I can tell you firsthand, as a female and as a survivor, both of y'all, that shit. See, if you don't know, if you're listening to this and going, well, I don't know, is that maybe true? No, it's horseshit. The female body is incredibly accommodating. even when we don't want to be. And see, when a traumatic event happens, like a sexual assault, our bodies are going to do one of three things. It's going to fight, it's going to flee, or it's going to freeze. And all of this happens instantaneously and subconsciously. The victim has absolutely no say in the matter. Her body senses danger and it does one of those things. You can't even rationally think because your lizard brain, your amygdala, our survival brain is totally taken over. But it can't shut down anything other than things that aren't necessary for survival. But that doesn't mean procreation. That's not eggs. It's what it's shutting down is like our immune system. Our stress and our cortisol goes through the roof. Our immune system, our digestion, all that other stuff is suppressed. But whether our body can actually physically accommodate an assaulter, or whether we actually get pregnant from that assault, no, guys and gals, our body has no way to deal with that. And guess what? You can even have an orgasm during a sexual assault and still not like it. Guys and girls, this happens too. It is your body's physical reaction to a stimulus. It has nothing to do with what's going on up here. It truly, truly doesn't. Seriously, Jen, thank you. It's the exact thing that I thought that when I read. If we could just shut down, there'd never be anybody who was calling for an abortion because they were raped, because they didn't want to have to give birth to that child. They didn't want to carry that child. If we could just do that at will, no, doesn't work that way, guys. Does not work that way. But yeah. All right. What other judges do we have? Ooh, this was a good one. 2013 in Montana, Judge G. Todd Baugh, it's Baugh. This is a 2007 case. It did not actually make it to trial, and through until 2013. There were a lot of reasons for the delays. The case concerned a 14-year-old girl, who was raped by her teacher, who admitted that he did it. He was pleading guilty. The judge implied that the victim herself was partially responsible for the assault occurring because she was, quote, older than her years in her behavior, and she was, quote, probably as much in control of the situation as was the defendant. And that led the judge to suspend all but 31 days of the defendant's 15-year prison sentence. Yeah, reasoning sound familiar. Afterwards, the judge tried to clarify his statement. make it sound not so bad. I'm not exactly sure what he thought these words were going to accomplish, but he said that, of course, a 14-year-old can't consent, but, quote, I think that people have in mind that this was some violent, forcible, horrible rape. It was horrible enough as it is, given her age, but this wasn't forcible, beat up rape. Oh, okay. Well, that makes it so much better. Thank you, Judge. And what makes this particular case all the more sad, and to me, what just burns in the insensitivity of his comments, was that 3 years before trial, 3 years after the rape, the young lady unalived herself. She was no longer around at the time of trial. Thank God the teacher did plead guilty. I don't know if you would have been able to restrain me if I was the parent of that child sitting in that courtroom. I really probably would have gone over and slapped the judge. I, in general, do not consider myself a violent person. But obviously, when we talk about stuff like this, I just, yeah. It's okay. You guys just sit there, listen. Not typing is okay. I understand. Don't worry, Jen. It, yep, nope, not saying a word. I know. It's not as if I expected this would be a lively chat, just because I'm sure all of you are sitting at home going, or wherever you're listening to this, with your jaw just hanging open, because right, it just blows our minds. It blows our minds that this kind of stuff can happen. And I, I, I seriously think about all of the change that we have made in the last 50 years. And we have to admit, we have come leaps and bounds. And I particularly look at my son's generation. He's Gen Z. And I look at everything that goes on with him. I look at his friends. I look at how they talk about sexual assault, how they speak about people who are older, interested in younger women, 30-year-old interested in 18-year-old. Not necessarily odd. 17, 16, 15. Kind of start creeping down there, right? And this generation is keenly, keenly aware, much, much more than I was, at the amount that they don't know. I don't know many 18-year-olds like I do these guys that just are like, we're just young kids, you know? It's like we just graduated high school. We know crap about the world. I have high hopes for them. I really do. And obviously, that's a very microcosm because it's just from my experience with my son and his friends. But I really have high hopes for them later on. All right. How about Judge Andrew Napolitano? It's New Jersey, boys. 2019, before he got that cushy Fox News job. In the case of a employee accused of raping a student, Judge Napolitano commented that the victim should have fought back or yelled if she was truly being raped. I don't know. Crystal says, I wonder what some of these judges would have said if they'd been the judge when you were charged, or you mean when your brothers were charged, when your case came forward? Because I want to know what some of these judges would have said if it was their sister, or if it was their mother, or if it was their daughter. There were several cases that I looked at bringing to you guys, based on the news snippets. And this is where you need to be careful, because when I looked into it, although the judge's comments may have sounded insensitive if you were just to look at that little snippet, when you looked at the full context of what they were saying, I understand. I don't think it was the proper point to say it, because I really don't think that when you're sentencing a rapist, it's not the time to remind the victims to take care of, or to remind women to take care of themselves so that they don't become victims. Put out a public statement. Put out something from your office, but not from the bench. Not in the same breath that you are sentencing the perpetrator. Because it very easily can be taken as, watch it. You can be responsible for this. When what they're trying to say is, we as women, and I'm just focusing on women for this episode just because that is where all the survivors are, where all the victims of the trials were. Oh, when you charged your brothers. It is incumbent upon us to protect ourselves. 100% and absolutely. Don't go to that party alone. Don't walk home at night without somebody if you can avoid it, right? Don't leave your drink unattended. These are all things that we can do to protect ourselves. And we should. What we absolutely need to make sure doesn't happen, though, is putting any blame onto the victim if she fails to do any of those things and ends up assaulted because of it. Maybe they put themselves in a bad situation. Sometimes we don't make great choices. So what? It doesn't mean that therefore anybody had a right to violate our bodies. I can flirt with you. I can say, yes, I'm going to have sex right up until the moment that we're getting undressed. And if I say no, then no means no. Period. We can be in the middle of having intercourse, and if I say no, it stops. Sorry, guy. That's the way it goes. And you have to be willing to do it. The expectation of you can't just do that and then leave me hanging. Yeah, I can. Is it nice of me if I'm not meaning it? No, it's not. I'm not a good person then. But if I legitimately change my mind, that happens. I was absolutely certain, and then I got scared. So, yeah. Yeah, Arlene, Crystal, I can give you just kind of Crystal was abused by her brothers in her family, and pretty horrendously, from the time she was a baby. Yeah, right on up through into, I think, her early teens. Crystal is one of those true, well, we all are, but she is a true survivor. She has been through hell and back, and she is still here on this side of it. And it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. We're pretty proud of her. Pretty proud of her. All right. What are some of these other ones what are some other gems that we've got in here? Da, 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 da. You guys want to go around the world? Okay, Crystal. I'm going to be picking on Canada for a minute. Only because wowzers Canada really had some of their judges step in it big time. Yeah, Arlene, it's actually amazing when you start looking at some of these numbers. It's upwards of 90 to 95% of sexual assault victims know their perpetrator. Family friend, acquaintance, family member, closer extended baseball coach, religious figure. But 90 to 95% of people know their attacker, their abuser. Yeah. These numbers are so disheartening and incredible because we want to believe that it's just the stranger who we need to watch out for. But literally 9 times out of 10, it's somebody who's close by. Somebody the family would never in a million years want to believe is the perpetrator. And that's what makes it very, very difficult when you have a family situation. Because these types of allegations do tear families apart. And it's just extremely disheartening when family does not believe the children. And it's one of the things that is a cornerstone of my establishing this channel, is educating people on the stats and what really happens and what survivors have faced for generations. Hollywood 210, welcome. Glad you're here. That's all right, Jen. We knew what you meant. Crystal, I think they can give a little bit longer because the ones that I was going through, the sentences that I was looking at for Canada were a little bit longer than that. So I'm not sure what the circumstances would be for the 2-year limit. I would need to look that up. But this is a judge. This case occurred in 2014. A 19-year-old woman was assaulted at a Crystal, that may just be Saskatchewan. I'm not sure. Definitely somebody who's more familiar with Canadian law would need to weigh in. Would have to do some digging there. So there was a house party, and there was a 19-year-old woman, and she was assaulted by somebody else who was at the house party. She was put atop a sink where she was raped. And the judge asked her, why couldn't you just keep your knees together? And then he asked her, why didn't you just sink your bottom down into the basin so he couldn't penetrate you? He also said that to her that if she had skewed her pelvis slightly, that she could have avoided the defendant. He also stated that young women want to have sex, particularly if they're drunk. Yeah. Oh, it gets worse, guys. It gets worse because he's not done yet. He's not done talking yet. Our incredibly ignorant judge then stated, sometimes sex and pain go together. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Oh, Judge Camp. He was removed in 2017, just so you know. But lastly, he had some advice to give to the defendant. And he said, I want you to tell your friends, your male friends, that they have to be far more gentle with women. They have to be far more patient. They need to make sure she wants it. And they have to be very careful to protect themselves. They have to be very careful. Yeah. Complete and utter moron. Now, he later stated before the tribunal, because he was trying not to get removed from the bench, that he had been mainly a bankruptcy judge. He was not extremely well versed in criminal law. He didn't realize some of the things about the law. And to me, I say, well, then fuck you. You shouldn't have been on the bench. I'm sorry. As an attorney, this just offends me to my core. You don't sit in front of a criminal trial if you don't know the criminal law. And more than that, you've got the fucking law in front of you. The prosecutor is going to present you with the law. Your jury instructions are going to have the law in it. There's absolutely no excuse. Zip, zero, zilch. Mm-hmm. Arlene, I don't know if, no, I do not believe there were any instances because I do believe it occurred in a bathroom. It was yeah, it was a bathroom sink. So they were at the house party, but they were uh, in a bathroom. So Judge Camp was removed. So this was in Quebec in 2017. As 2017 was not a great year for some judges. Yeah, keep breathing, keep deep breathing. Judge Jean-Paul Braun stated in regards to a 17-year-old girl who a taxi driver had tried to forcibly kiss. He ended up licking her face and groping her. He said, she's a young girl, 17. Maybe she's a little overweight, but she has a pretty face, no? And then after noting that the defendant looked good for his age, she said she was a bit flattered. Okay. He did find the defendant guilty, though. So his purpose in stating any of that, I haven't a clue. Like I said, sometimes with some of these media accounts, I can only get snippets, and sometimes I want to get like the fuller context around, especially when it comes to these cases outside of the U.S. There's difficulty looking it up, difficulty with the research, and some of the connections for the links don't exactly work either. So yeah, I really don't have a clue as to what the judge was trying to get across with that. A few months later, I am going to move on from Canada. 2017, like I said, was just a really bad year for them. Justice Gregory Lenehan stated, and this was in regards to a 2014 case, when acquitting the defendant, he stated, he's trying to parse hairs here is what he's trying to do. A person would be incapable of giving consent if she's unconscious or is so intoxicated by alcohol or drugs to be incapable of understanding or perceiving the situation itself. This does not mean, however, that an intoxicated person cannot give consent to sexual activity. Clearly, a drunk can consent. While technically proper, you could really tell that he was trying to skirt around this issue of where the line was, because the girl had gotten into the taxi, and I think it was like 30 minutes later, she was found passed out unconscious from the alcohol because her BAC was that high in the taxi. So it was a very, very short window of time. And no, a drunk meaning like just drunk. Like how drunk is too drunk? Is it 0.1? Is it 0.12? Is it point, where's that drunk line that you can consent versus you cannot consent, right? I mean, the best rule of thumb is, hey, if somebody's been drinking and you don't know them very well, if they've had more than like a drink, if they're acting tipsy or fuzzy at all, just wait. Just wait. It's just best, right? It's just best. Yeah, it was Canada. It was Canada, and she wanted to ride home in a taxi. I looked at a lot of these, and I'm not. This may be the one where her friends put her in the taxi, and that's how they knew that there was like this short window of time. I would have to. I know it doesn't mean she wanted sex. Yeah, but what point is too drunk to consent? Well, I think if you can't actually form words, that's going to be a good indication that you can't consent. It just, while technically what he said was the law, you're really trying to parse too many hairs when you get down to that, right? I mean, who would want to risk it? Have some women been too drunk and the next morning have been like, whoa, I was raped? And the guy's like, no, you said yes. And you're like, I do not remember that. Could that be true? Could you have said yes? Yeah, it's possible. Maybe you did. But you didn't realize what you were saying. You were too drunk to give informed consent. And that's where it is behooved on the other person to look at you and go, I think maybe you better sleep it off. Whether it's alcohol, whether it's other drugs, it's too, I just wouldn't want to risk that. And Jen says she was drunk, but she'd been drugged. So, yeah, you know. Okay, just because this one's next after, just moved to India. And I will tell you, India is one of the countries that has not outlawed marital rape yet. It is a place that is still incredibly paternalistic and misogynistic. The laws have been changing ever since 2002 or 2012, and I can't remember which one. And I want to say it was 2012. Remember that woman was gang raped on that bus by like 40 people or something, and she ended up dying. The laws had been changing before then, but there was a huge, massive push for reform after that, and it's obviously still continuing till this day. But yeah, India is a very tough place. They're trying. They're activists. They're trying so hard. But you're talking about a huge, huge country. And the amount of people who are activists, who are behind this, are still in the minority, right? Definitely still in the minority. So this Judge Sadhana Jadhav, in deciding to grant bail to a stepfather accused of abusing his stepdaughter in 2015, says she has admitted that she used to do all the dirty things. It appears that she was inherently abnormal and had sexual instinct from her childhood, in all probability because of the environment and atmosphere in which she lived, and because of the conduct of her mother. Oh, hey, LV, ALV, how are you? He also stated that the victim had not disclosed the act of the father to the supervisor of the protective home and complained about it, the assault, after a considerable lapse of time. The statement of the victim on the basis of which the crime is registered does not appear to be truthful and therefore does not inspire confidence in this court. And here's the real rub. The judge didn't even need to go into any of that or state any of that in regards to whether or not to give the guy bail. The facts of the case had nothing to do with whether he was going to grant him bail. So, yeah. It's that type of thinking, that type of rationale that is still pretty pervasive in large swaths of India. Now, the higher courts, what would be like their Supreme Court, and some of the what they would consider like their appellate courts, have really been trying to make inroads. I mean, they have. You're just talking about an entire system that you're trying to dismantle, an entire way of belief. And they don't have near the advocacy that, say the US things have been happening here, There was another case from India that I read that was around the same time, maybe 2020, a few years later. And the judge said that basically he had absolutely zero understanding of how trauma victims react or what they do. He could not understand why after the rape she allowed him to stay there in her house. You've just been raped. You're in shock. You're like, what the hell? My rapist is still in my house. I just politely ask him to leave. Let's say I even had my wits about me. That's incumbent upon me to do, to somehow indicate that I didn't want this to happen? No. And the kicker, what really got the Indian people up in arms was after a little while, she ended up falling asleep. And he stated that that was not how an Indian woman rape victim would behave. So it they got a long way to go. They got a long way to go, as do many other countries. Being an English-speaking country, there's more media reports that are going to come through my searches, because that's what mainly my research is going to pull. All right. Let's move on to some other ones, shall we? Janet, you're alive. How's the plague? We just got done with our Canadians. Well, maybe I got a few more for you. I'll see if I've got a few more. Well, let's go to Australia. Great point, John. Great point. Has any other person been completely exhausted after an assault when the adrenaline wears off? Yeah. From shock, numb, shut down, all of it, right? Is it any wonder that somebody might fall asleep? No, it's not surprising. Not surprising at all. This is a magistrate, Richard Pitthouse, Australia, 2018. This was during a victims crime assistance tribunal hearing, so it wasn't the actual criminal trial. But the magistrate said intoxication was not an excuse for purposes of that tribunal, that the victim put herself in the position, and there's an old adage that you can't profit from your own malfeasance. And when the woman's lawyer said that she did call the crisis line the next morning after the alleged crime, he called it buyer's remorse. So, yeah. He pretty much looked at the woman and said, listen, you got drunk at a party? Too bad, so sad. You put yourself in that position, kind of like, what did you expect was going to happen? Yeah, buyer's remorse. Yeah. Now, granted, again, I go back to, there is absolutely nothing that says that we can't preach to our fellow sisters and brothers and nieces and nephews and kids and grandkids and everybody, right? Because who does sexual assault target? Who is targeted by sexual assault? Absolutely everybody. There's no age limit. There's no gender, race, sexual orientation. Flipping doesn't matter. You can be anyone, and you can be the target of a sexual assault. So, of course, let's remind people how to be safe. Let's remind people how to take care of themselves. Let's remind people how to mitigate their risks. And all of that is well and good. But the bottom line is that if somebody doesn't do those things, it doesn't mean that they are at fault or even partially to blame for a sexual assault that occurs to them. I should be able to walk down a street in the skimpiest of outfits and not be assaulted. Is that realistic? Depending on where I am. Probably not. But should I be able to do that? Yes, I should. Because it's on the perpetrator for not restraining himself or herself. It's their fault. 100% solely. And rape culture is going to continue to perpetuate to some degree unless we get this through our heads. Practice safety. But by golly, if someone makes stupid decisions, do not blame them. Do not shame them. Because it's not their fault. It's not boys will be boys. It's not, well, you let her on. No. No, no, no. I'm going to just shake some people. All right. I tried to highlight the cases that I was able to actually go verify all the details about. There are a couple other ones in the US that I wanted to talk about. So a lot of the cases that I looked at the 70s and 80s, the ones that I could find, the sort of things that the judges had to say were very, very much the victim blaming and the blame shifting. Shouldn't be there, shouldn't have done that, all those kind of things. Take deep breaths, Jen, deep breaths. It's interesting you say that, Arlene. Arlene says, but any self-respecting woman wouldn't be walking around like that. It's a judgment. And there was, I'm trying to find it, hang on, because it was either a judge or a legislator. And it was a female. And in justifying her comments, and she did say, I don't know if I can find it, that she was very much old school, and that, therefore she believed that the victim, shouldn't have been where she was and shouldn't have been dressed like she was. It comes down to the notion that whatever your choices are, that you should be safe in them. Good choices or bad choices. It should not matter. Again, I think the point we're trying to make, Arlene, in regards to thinking that it's okay, some people are going to think it's okay and some people are going to think it's not. The issue is, if it's done, regardless of whether you agree that somebody should be doing it, shouldn't be doing it, that person should still have a right to be not violated by doing it. Is it riskier behavior? Certainly. And I don't think we can argue that it's not, because of the society that we still live in. But I should be able to walk naked down the street and not have somebody accost me. Is that wise? No, it's not. Taking the judgment out of that aspect, because we need to 100% be looking at the perpetrators and at what they did. I don't care if a woman doesn't have many clothes on. That doesn't give him the right to accost her. That doesn't give him the right to say her no means yes. So whether or not you think that that woman is just or ethical or self-respecting or a tramp, or however you want to judge that person for what they choose to wear, that's up to you. But regardless of what that woman chooses to do, she should be able to have her body not violated. And that's the point that we're trying to make. Because every time we use our judgments in the way that we think women should be acting, and again, I'm using women, but men are rape victims too, and it happens to men. Right now we're talking about adults because I'm leaving children out of this. Jen, you're stating your opinion, and that's why I'm trying to bring an understanding in terms of this thinking, because Arlene's not alone, right? There are huge swaths of our population who believe that. And whether you think that judgment is right or wrong, that's the point that we're trying to make, is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think of that person. You still have a right to have autonomy over your own body. Your no means no, no matter when it is, no matter how you are, no matter what you do. Your no means no. Again, if you're drinking heavily, if you're flirting with somebody, if you're dressed provocatively, does all of that increase your chances that you're putting yourself in a risky position? It certainly does. And we cannot argue to the contrary, guys. It's risky. Should you be able to do it? Yes, you should. However, it's risky. Because we know when any substances get involved, your judgment, and of course, if the other person is ingesting anything, their judgment is going to be impaired. And it just can lead to absolute disaster. But survivors are not going to come forward. Survivors are not going to be able to get rid of the stigma of having been sexually assaulted unless we 100% of the time consistently are putting the blame where it belongs, on the perpetrator. People want to lecture that person in private and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to you. Ugh. So stupid to make those decisions. Yeah, you put yourself in a risky position, but oh my God, this should have never happened to you. It should have never happened to you. People should be able to control their sexual urges. And like I said, even if you guys are engaged in some sort of physical contact, if one person says no, that stops. It absolutely stops. I really wanted to find that woman's comment, that female, because she was making this exact same point. And I can't find it. Hang on, guys. Yeah, I'm not going to get into some of my other around the world ones, just because they're pretty much going over the same things that we've already talked about. What I did notice from the other cases around the world that I pulled is there seemed to be kind of two main refrains. One was reporting, right? The delay in reporting. This idea that if a woman doesn't report immediately, then it wasn't really rape. That she didn't really not want it because there was some form of delay. Delay in reporting is actually more common than going straight to the police due to so many factors. Fear, embarrassment, shame, blame. Hey Shannon, how you doing? Lack of support, shock. It's actually estimated that for people my age, men and women, the average delay in disclosure for them, 20 to 30 years. 20 to 30 years. Delay is more common than telling. We've gone over with our kids. It's estimated that a kid has to disclose numerous times. I mean, we're talking over a dozen times before they're believed. Why? Why is that the case for our children? If kids know about sexual activity, you need to be asking yourself how. They were exposed to it somehow, whether they saw it or it was done to them. When you're talking about young kids, when you're talking about 12, 13-year-olds, again, what kind of activity are we talking about? There's only so much that's going to be a natural progression for somebody to get involved in or instigate when they're children. So for us not to believe our kids, that's just like the ultimate knife to my heart. It hurts my soul when we don't believe our kids. Shen said she babysat kids that were 3 and 5 and they knew way too much. Yeah. Well, although my first assault was when I was 4 years old, I didn't report it because I didn't even really remember it. But by the time I was 6, if my parents had known what to look for, it would have become obvious that I knew way too much for a 6-year-old. You just don't go through that early. You just don't. So we have to be concerned when our kids know more than they should for their age group. And that's becoming harder and harder and harder because now we've got porn in the palm of your hand. So now we have to be asking, did you see it? Or did it happen to you? Did you see it in person or did you see it on one of these? If you're interested, I did do a whole show on kids on porn, and it's discussing the issues that we need to be prepared for in terms of this generation that we have that has been raised on porn, that has had access to it ever since they were 6 years old, you know? So it's something that I have constantly talked to my son about because I knew how accessible it was. And I didn't want him growing up thinking that that was normal and that that was okay and that this is what it was like and everything. Yeah. This happens so frequently. Crystal says she was 11 when it first happened to her, and said her mom tried to find out the truth, but then believed him because she didn't want to believe that she'd married a monster. And when we're talking about familial ties, this is so, so common. Anybody who you've, especially as a parent, who you've put your trust in. It's happened in my own family. When I was 11, I tried to disclose when something else was happening, and my mom refused to believe it. It just no, it's not that serious. She was doing the minimization thing. He just wanted to see how far I could get. It's don't worry about it. It just stay away from him, kind of thing. I'm 11. He's 26. She didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to think that she had brought these people into our home. These were her friends. She trusted these people and their son. It gets really hard when you've got people that you trust. It's why things with religious figures are so difficult. And we're allowed to go under. I won't say, and we're allowed to go under radar. I think it's one of the reasons why things went under the radar for so long. The power that a religious figure could have over you as a victim, but then also were you to tell, who are they going to believe? You versus the priest or the rabbi or the minister? That's what I feel like, no. And again, I mean, growing up, such a stigma, right? That people aren't going to come forward. So unless you've got masses coming forward, like they eventually did, and why? Because of the internet. These people were finally able to connect with each other and say, it happened to you too. 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 Same thing with Boy Scouts of America. That'll get me going off into another vein, and we were just focusing on adults with this, because talking about kids gets me into a whole nother conversation. But let's just stick with some hang on, guys. My cursor. All right. Hang on, guys. I'm just trying to see that I made it through all these. So yeah. Yeah, trust is very easily broken. It's one of the things that, I think all of us as human beings, once you've had your trust in something broken, it's one of the hardest things to build back up again. Honestly, I don't know how somebody, say the infidelity in a marriage, I don't know how you grow to trust that person again. I'm not sure how you heal from that. To me, I mean, it would just be years and years and years of almost, I think, God, for me, I think it would just be a matter of like putting it behind me. I don't know that I would be healing from the trust so much as I'd be just like, okay, you get a second chance now. I have no evidence that you haven't been faithful, so therefore, I guess I'm just going to give you. That's one of those betrayals to me that I'm not really sure that I could ever get over. But we forgive in our hearts, not for the other person, but for ourselves. That gives us peace. Okay. Guys, I have about 25 cases listed here. But I only went over a handful of them, again, because most of they're saying the same things, just in a different case. But I'm getting better at this because I know if I was to do this again, I know how I would do it, and I know the amount of cases that I'd have and how I'd want to talk about this. So I'm excited for 2025. I just think our lives are just going to get better and better. Arlene says, once the trust is broken, there's no going back. Yeah, I don't know how people do. I know some people can. I just don't know that I could. That would be really, really, really difficult for me. So, all right. Well, I think that's all I've got in regards to. I mean, I could read just some more on some of the. Hey, Todd, how you doing? Are you home or still in the hospital? And how are you feeling? Arlene, I'm really glad that you were here, and I'm glad you brought a few of your viewpoints, because these are the things that I completely understand where you come from. 100% understand where you come from. Education is the key to reducing sexual assault. 100%. And obviously, our law enforcement and the judicial system still needs some education on it. I think one of the most critical conversations that you can have with somebody is to discuss the difference between poor decisions, risky behavior, and blame. Just because you make poor decisions, just because you engage in risky behavior, doesn't mean you deserve what you get. Doesn't mean you deserved to be sexually assaulted. Because that abuser needs to know that they are not in the right for taking what they want simply because of how they perceive somebody. "20 years ago, if the skirt had been above my knee, would that have been enough? Was the Oh, good. Arlene, I think it's so critical that we address these things and that we're able to do it and actually have a conversation, because you know you're not even, I would say, in the minority. Um, so how we judge people in regards to their choices when it comes to sexual assault, we need to be extremely careful, because until people truly believe that they are not at fault, till survivors 100% and society backs them up, that they are not at fault for sexual assaults, for violations of their body against their consent, we are still going to have the stigma of being a sexual assault survivor, of being looked at differently. Like, what did you do? If it wasn't a stranger who grabbed you off the street, what did you do to contribute to it? Did you not say no? Did you yell? Did you how did he know you were saying no? What indication did you give? None of that. I'm sorry, your leg's still hurting. That's a tough one. Todd. Uh, as most trauma survivors know, we understand chronic pain. We get that, right? So definitely our hearts go out to you. Definitely our hearts go out to you. So we'll see. Neither did I, Todd. I never made it to court with the abuse either. I was too scared. I was too scared to tell, and for reasons I did not, in regards to my adult assault. It's a choice I don't envy anyone to ever have to make. Do you tell? If you tell, are you believed? If you are believed, are you still looked at negatively? Does that stigma of being a rape survivor follow you? Attitudes are better than they were, but we've still got a ways to improve. So we'll continue this conversation. It's something that, as long as I've started this and I've started the PSAs, I've got second episodes already lined up. We are going to continue on the PSA train next Saturday, I believe I have scheduled. If you haven't checked it out, guys, you should have gotten notifications that I have like 5 more lives after this scheduled. If you didn't get the notifications, check your notification status. So the bell, when you go subscribe and you've got that little bell, click on the bell, make sure it's clicked to all. Because I notice a lot of times if I just click subscribe, it puts me on personalized notifications, which unless I personalize anything, I don't get any notifications. So make sure it's all, and then you should get the notifications. So next week, Wednesday, it's day before Thanksgiving here in the United States. So I decided that let's talk about some triggers and dealing with family and dealing with the holidays. Something we're going to revisit several different times between now and the end of the year and into January a little bit. And thought we'd do it the first time before our big major holiday. Hey, Mock, how are you doing? We miss you. I think about you. Yeah, same, Janet. She says when she told her mom about her sister's abuse, her mom shut down because she couldn't handle it. She had no tools for that type of thing. It's very true. Very, very, very true. And that's why education is so important. We have to educate our peers and our parents and the younger generations. Good, just doing life stuff? Okay. Hope all is hope all is well. And shoot me a ring sometime. Shoot me an email sometime. Just let me know next time you head to the coast. Shoot me an email. Maybe a picture of your tea shop. I would love to see what it looks like. Mott goes to this artisanal tea shop in Germany, and I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I can't see straight. I think it's like, just absolutely phenomenal. I live in a decent sized city, but I think there's maybe only one like tea shop in town where like that's the majority of what they do. I think there's a little bakery along with it as well, but I don't think that they do artisanal. I don't think they make their own tea blends, which is unlike this place that Mock goes. So that is why I'm so jealous. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to see what my son is up to, see if he's even around. I know that he was fixing his car. He seems to have fixed it. He said he kicked the shit out of the battery. Now it's working, and he's getting more voltage. So we'll see. You might have a guest room soon for friends. That'd be neat. Bye, Todd. Rest up, okay? I hope you feel better real soon. I really hope your leg will get better soon. Jen, same to you. Rest up. Let's see. Janet, same to you. Rest up. All my sick people in here. To everybody else, just rest up. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Please, if you ever need to contact me, survivingtogether, sass@gmail.com. The link or the address is in every description, every video description that I have will be in this one afterwards. Lots of walking in your future, Todd. Well, that's a good thing, right? That's going to be a very good thing. Oh, how exciting. You might even buy a house. Oh, Mark, that's so cool. Definitely keep us posted. Let us know what you're going to do. Big, big, big giant hugs going out to you. I know things have been up and down. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful hugs going out to you. I want to thank all of our East Coast folks for coming over. Thank you to Tommy Stiggs, Thindu, ALV, everybody else who came over from those channels to support for today. I really appreciated it. It meant a lot. Means a lot. Okay. Sounds good. Oh, Crystal, thank you for reminding me to ask at the end. Yes. So if you weren't here at the beginning when I asked, I am looking to speak to anyone who has or has had lupus or fibromyalgia. I wanted to speak with you a little bit about living with the condition. So if you had it in your heart and would be willing to speak to me for just a few minutes about it, please email me, and that would really, really be appreciated. Okay, text me. All right, so that's it. So Wednesday, get ready to talk about dealing with family and triggers and how do we make it through this Thanksgiving day, if that's what your deal is, whether it's with family or whether it's alone. You know, how do we navigate these holidays and keep our sanity about ourselves, right? So that's what we're going to talk about on Wednesday. Absolutely, Jen. Be kind to each other. 100%. Remember, you're worthy, you're valuable, and you're loved just the way that you are for who you are. So giant hugs and love from me. Mwah. Thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll see you Wednesday evening at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Bye.